everyone, and welcome to Simply Made Homestead. Now today I'm going to take you along and show you how I make ghee. Now I have watched different videos. I've only made ghee twice. I've made it in two different ways. I'm going to talk about both of them, but I'm going to show you how to do one of them, and it is my preferred method. Now the reason that it is my preferred method is because of the flavor that you get from it. It is, where's my ghee? Here is what's left. So that's why we are going to make more today. Now I know you've probably seen ghee in the stores, which, you know, this little jar for $8. I know, crazy. And I thought, well, I didn't even know what ghee was for the longest time. But anyway, on my quest of trying to eat healthier, to be more self-sufficient, to build our homestead where we can feed our family, it has led me to ghee. Our freezers go out, our electricity goes down for whatever reason, for any length of time, if you don't have a generator or some way to keep them running, the butter will melt and it's gone. We don't have a milk cow. We don't have access to milk. So, and I love butter, and it's so good to cook with, and I'm a firm believer in healthy fats. Now ghee, what it is, or clarified butter, it is the oils or the fats that are in the butter. So during the cooking process, what happens is the oil or the fat separates from the milk, and the fat from the butter is what we keep, and that is what makes ghee. Now it makes it very shelf stable. Especially if you live in a cooler climate, you could leave it in your cupboards or somewhere cool and you would be fine for a long period of time. But I am going to can a big batch of ghee in the very near future, and when I do, I will take you along with me and we'll do that together. But today I don't have a whole bunch of butter to do. I have a small pack, a pound of butter. I think it's a pound of butter, and I'm getting low. And it's good stuff. So I need more, and I want to show you how. Like anything, the higher quality of your product or your food before you cook it, the healthier it is going to be. Lots of times the better of a taste that it's going to have, like fresh from the garden versus bought in the grocery store. So this is the first time I have bought this butter. It's Kirkland's, Costco. We got it at Costco. It's grass-fed butter, and it's salted. I have not used salted butter in years, but today that's what I'm going to use. And so I'm going to have to be careful when I go to seasoning my stuff, because I'm not used to having salted butter. But that's okay. We're going to be okay. So this right here, it says grass-fed, 95% grass-fed. I'm thinking probably grass-fed, grain finished. It doesn't actually say that, but that's what we're going to go with. Now, if I could find strictly grass-fed butter, I would purchase that if it was in the area. I would so love to have my own cows, but we just don't have room for them, so it just is what it is. Let's see. How much is this? This is 2 pounds of butter. So that is what we're going to be using today. Now I have a heavy bottom. It's a small cast iron pot. Can you see me okay right there? Okay. Just want to make sure. And this has been in the freezer. It's still pretty firm, but I think I'll be able to cut it. Let me move this over here out of the way so you can see me. You can see me okay? There we go. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is just cut it up into chunks to put in the pot. Now, while we're doing this, I want to talk to you and tell you about the other way of doing it, which is much simpler, much easier. It's very, like, this is more hands-on, where the other method is not. And so I want to explain that one to you because it's super easy, and if you want to start there, that's where I started. Please help yourself, because you'll still be able to try the ghee and be able to see, you know, what you think, how you feel about it. So with the other method, you do it the same way. You chop it up, but you put it in a long, shallow casserole dish, like you'd make a lasagna in, or a casserole, you know, casserole dish. So you put it in there, then you'll stick it in a preheated 350-degree oven, and you just let it sit in there for about 30 minutes. Now you come back and you check it. You probably check it after 20 just to be safe. You don't want it to start to burn the milk in the butter, okay? You don't want it to burn regardless to what method that you use to make this. So you need to be sure and check on it. But once the milk products and the oil, the milk and the oil has separated, you'll be able to see it because the milk will literally settle on the bottom of the pan. You can take it out and you can begin to spoon the butter, just the oils from the butter, off the top. Try not to disturb the milk. You don't want to disturb the milk. It's very important, okay? Because that's what will make your butter spoil. So you'll just spoon off the oils, and then you just let your jar sit on the counter and let it cool. Now make sure, I would put your jar, because that butter is super, super hot when it comes out of the oven. So put your jar up on the stove where it can heat up. And so you'll have a nice warm jar before you start putting your melted butter in it. So you can cut it up into whatever chunks you want. You don't have to cut it up into any chunks. You cut it up into chunks, it melts a little faster, and that's the only reason I'm doing it. But anyway, the reason that I have chosen to take this method, where I have to stay close, keep an eye on it, is because it comes out the pure aroma. It reminds me of caramel because the milk solids, they kind of toast. It's like a toasted scent and a toasted flavor. And it is just, I think it's delicious. Absolutely delicious. So that's why I choose this method. Now, after everything melts and it begins to heat up, there's going to be different bubbles that are going to show up. And those bubbles are going to help us know when we're getting close, when we're getting to where all the water, because what we're doing, we're cooking, there's also water in there. There's water and there's butter, and we're cooking all of the water off. We're going to, the butters, or the milk will fall to the bottom, and that's what will begin to cook on the bottom. And it gets a light toasty brown, and that's what creates that flavor in there that I just absolutely love. Now I do have a little small bowl that I'm going to put off to the side here, that if I need to skim any foam off, which I will have to do, that I'm going to put in that little bowl. And that's just another little treat for the puppies. Or you can save it and it'll kind of firm up, and you can use it on toast or whatever. Fry an egg in it. Can you see those? Look at those big bubbles that are beginning to start. Now my stovetop really runs hot, so I'm going to end up turning it down, because you don't want a hard boil. You want a nice gentle simmer. You can see the foam that's beginning to start. Little bubbles around the edges of the pot. See the big one? Did you see that? See the big bubbles it's making? Now with the big bubbles, we're beginning to get rid of some of the water, for the water to begin to evaporating out of the butter. We're getting a nice foamy top, little bubbles around the edges, big bubbles coming up in the middle. That's what we want. But you see, it's not this hard boil. And mine's even getting a little bit harder, so I'm turning mine down just a little bit. And now mine is really going here, so I'm taking it down to low because I want it to cook nice and slow. Lots and lots of foam on top, lots of big bubbles. Now I've got a nice thick layer of foam on top, so I'm going to start very gently scooping that off the top. Because I only want to get the foam. I don't want to get the oil. Of course, you're probably going to get a little bit, and that's okay. And this does take a little bit of time, but to me, it is so worth it. I'm really looking forward to getting a whole bunch of butter and making a really big batch and putting it up in mason jars where we can just walk back and take one off the shelf. Super, super excited. See, we're still getting nice big bubbles there. And one thing I do is I just kind of skim my spoon around the top when the foam gets really light, when there's not much left. Just kind of scoop it around, and that way you can bring the foam over into one place and be able to it makes it a little easier to scoop it up when there's more of it. And that's all we do, guys. We just keep it cooking nice and low. I have mine stovetop on the lowest temperature, and you see how it's cooking? That's what we want. If you get it up too high, you're going to burn those milk solids that have fallen to the bottom of the pot, and you don't want to do that. We want them toasty, but you really don't want them burned. It's already beginning to smell so good. Now my jars have warmed up quite nicely. They're very, very warm just from sitting here on the stove top. So like I said, I had the oven on earlier. Now we are going to need a funnel to be able to funnel the ghee into our jars. Some people will just spoon it right into the jars. Some people will use a fine mesh strainer, and then others will use a piece of cheesecloth. This one is greasy looking because this is what I used last time. This is what I chose to use. And I like the cheesecloth because you can, any bits that you might have missed that got mixed in there when you're spooning it up, the cheesecloth will catch. Now you can see I'm starting to get a little more foam here. So I'm just going to pull it right back over here to the side where I can get it off here. And the bubbles, do you hear how they sound? They're making a different noise. If you didn't notice how the bubbles were sounding before, rewind real quick and listen to them. I'm sure there had to have been a moment in there where I wasn't talking, hopefully. So that just tells you that we have moved on to the next step. And you'll also see, if you look in there, we're still getting some big bubbles, but you see there was a big one there, but see how they're getting smaller? That's what we're looking for. It's when all the big bubbles are gone. It's making that sound that it's making right now. See, we've still got some big ones. And this may be a little boring watching butter cook, but you really need to be able to recognize the different stages that it goes through so you know when you have clarified butter. See, we're getting some big bubbles there. Now the butter itself, you can see through the butter, you can see it's getting kind of a toasty, light brown color. And so we're getting close. I wish I had looked at the clock before I started this so I could tell you how long it has taken me to do this. I would say a good 30 minutes. But once again, it's going to depend on your stove, how much butter you have, size of your pot, and things like that. But I'm not seeing any more big bubbles. It's really just a lot of little tiny bubbles. You can see some big air bubbles on top that have started to come up. So we're going to give it a few more minutes. I don't remember those last time. I'm sure they were there. I mean, like I said, I've only done this once before. But we're going to watch it and see if they go away. We won't wait too long, so we don't want it to burn. Getting a little more foam off. It's just gorgeous. Just simply gorgeous. All right, guys. I'm going to turn it off. And we're going to pour it up. All right. So I've got my nice warm jar here. And my funnel. And a nice clean piece of cheesecloth. There we go. So I'm just going to start ladling it over. And you want to stay on the top. You don't want to pull up the butter particles at the bottom. I pulled two quart-sized jars out because I didn't know for sure if exactly what size I would need. I didn't remember how much butter I used last time when it was only 1 quart jar. A little more foam I'm gonna get rid of. I could just turn it up and pour it into the thing, but I'm scared I'll end up just spilling it everywhere. See, I'm still picking up foam, and I am picking up some bits of milk because I want to get all that yummy butter. And so the cheesecloth really catches it. The fine mesh basket, it just doesn't, some of it, little bits get through. All right, now you can see there, see the brown bits and the white, that is all milk. And that brown, oh, it smells so good. It's not, you know, like burnt milk is so gross, but that's like a toasted scent, a toasted smell, and it is just divine. It's yummy, yummy, yummy. Now the cheesecloth, it does catch some of the butter, of course, because it's fabric, but I'd rather do that, give up a little, and not get the milk particles into my jar. I'm just going to put a lid on there and let it sit here. It's hot. Look how clear. Isn't that beautiful? Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big old thumbs up, guys. Any suggestions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please be sure to leave them in the comment section below and share us with your friends, family, and all across social media. We sure would appreciate it. All right, guys, get your butter. Let's make us some ghee. Until next time, take care. God bless.